If I could have everybody's attention. If I could have everybody's attention, we're going to get going here in just a minute or two. But before we get started, I had a little special announcement that I wanted to make before I bring our president, Brian Riley, up here. USA Hockey this year, with their Distinguished Service Award, will be honoring the American Hockey Coaches Association Commissioner and Executive Director and Hockey East Commissioner, and I know you all wanted to join in congratulating Joe Britannia for his Distinguished Service Award. And it is now my pleasure to bring up our president, Brian Riley. Brian?
Thanks, Bruce. Coach, it's been a long time. I wear glasses now. Joe, congrats. Certainly well-deserved. Like to welcome everybody to tonight's celebration of men's ice hockey. Before I get started, would just like to thank a few people. First of all, the North American Hockey League and the USHL for sponsoring the reception tonight, for CCM for sponsoring the Coach of the Year Awards, and of course to USA Hockey for once again sponsoring this dinner, as well as sponsoring the women's dinner. Tonight's always a special night. We come together to celebrate not only the amazing season that some coaches in this room had by presenting them with Coaches of the Year awards, but we're also here tonight to celebrate and thank some individuals who have given so much to our game over the years, and we'll honor them tonight by presenting them with awards that bear the names of some of the giants in our game. I think most of us in this room over the course of the years have had the opportunity to play for coaches that have had a huge impact on us, and I know I certainly have. For me, tonight is very special because two of those coaches are actually receiving awards. I learned a great deal about hockey, obviously, from playing for these guys, but I don't think I would be here today, certainly in this profession, if it wasn't for them. But I think most importantly, I learned a lot about the game of life, and they helped to shape me into the person that I am today. So to Coach Mcshane and to Coach Barzee, I would just like to say congrats, but more importantly, thank you. One of my duties tonight is I have the pleasure of introducing tonight's MC, Dave Starman. Dave was the MC here just 2 years ago, did a fantastic job, and we certainly appreciate the fact that he's agreed to come down here again tonight. For those of you that know Dave, and even for those of you that don't know Dave, he's just a real hockey guy. He's coached at just about every level, NHL scout, broadcaster. I think where most of us recognize him from or are familiar with him is the coverage with the World Juniors and the work that he does with ESPN with our national tournament. And from the very start at the selection show right through to the end of the championship game, I think there's two things that are very apparent about Dave. Is number one, he does his homework. Like, he truly understands the guys that are playing in the game. He understands the teams, and you can feel that. But more importantly, the passion that he has for college hockey. So to Dave, we say thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Dave Starman.
Thanks, Riles. Thanks, Joe, TJ, Bruce, Brett, Casey, the board of directors of the AHCA, the assembled body of coaches, for having me here to host the banquet. It's humbling. And a special hello to the fine folks at College Hockey Inc., Mike Snee, Nate Yule, and of course the legendary Brent Darnell, who continue to market our game far and wide and create the product that has become college hockey. Now, the last time I did this, Jack Parker spoke a little bit after I did, and Jack said, and I quote, "I've never heard Dave Starman speak without a commercial break, and personally I'm kind of hoping for one." So I'm a little rattled, bear with me, and Jack, if you'd like to... That's just wanted to acknowledge you're here. I'm listening. We're here to celebrate men's hockey, so let's get started. There are a lot of people here to be celebrated, but before we do that, since the last time that we all gathered here, we lost two members of our community, Ron Mason and Jeff Sauer, and I look around the room and I see the amount of people that were impacted by both of those guys, and I certainly was too. Ron was as you know, coach in a lot of different places, coach at Michigan State, which was his last stop. My cousin Jeff actually was a student manager, so I got to meet Ron back in 1986. The first college game that I ever went to that I didn't play in was at Michigan State, and after meeting Ron, it was kind of neat, and I felt like when I got into college hockey 13 years ago with what was then CSTV, I wanted to meet Ron and get to know Ron a little bit, and I'm really glad I did. And like I said, my cousin was his manager. My uncle Bob was Emil Bissoni's student manager, so we had a little bit of a legacy there at Michigan State. So it was fun getting to know Ron, and as you know, instrumental in the birth of the CCHA, national championship with Michigan State in '86, and an NAIA title in '72 at Lake Superior. For a long time, the winningest coach in college hockey until the Long Island whole wheat bagel connoisseur Jerry York took that title. And you take a look at countless players that he produced, NHL players and coaches that are in this room that he had an effect on, including one of our award recipients, Rick Comley, and Danton Cole, who is now back in his dream job as the head coach at Michigan State. And Jeff Sauer, so many contributions that Jeff Sauer made to our game: impaired hockey, sled hockey, USA hockey, the IIHF, women's hockey, the contributions he made to his alma mater, Colorado College, as the head coach, and of course, where he won his 2 national championships at the University of Wisconsin. You take a look at the former players that are in this room that played for Jeff that are coaching in college hockey, whether it be the Granato brothers or Marco Siki, Steve Rolick, Gary Shuchuk, Jim Johansson, who put together 4 medal-winning teams for us with Team USA at the World Junior Championships, and my current boss with the Montreal Canadiens, Scott Mellenby. Now, one thing about Jeff, I'll never forget this. It's Christmas Day 2012, and I'm flying to Edmonton for the World Junior Championships, and I'm sitting across the aisle from him, and I'm going through the IIHF rulebook. I kind of became a rules nerd. And I'm going through the rulebook. I'm trying to make sure I got my act together because, as we all know, heaven forbid the rules should be the same in any leagues. So the NHL rule and the college rules and the IIHF rules are a little different. So I'm going through this, and I asked Jeff one question about a rule, and he says, "I got a better idea." And he hands me this volume, this big, and we went page by page through every rule in the IIHF that I might need to see, and he was great. It's just, to me, that's what Jeff Sauer was. But one of the things that makes me laugh is he told me this story earlier this year, actually. It's February 22nd, 1980. He's coaching CC. Bob Johnson's coaching Wisconsin. Now, everybody knows that date. That's the year that Team USA beat the Soviet Union. And he said, we weren't very good that year. So Wisconsin comes in, and we already knew the score of the USA game. And I'm thinking to myself, the best way that I could win Saturday night is getting Bob Johnson out of here. So he said to Bob, "Are you going to go to Lake Placid to watch your son play?" No, my job is with my team. I'm a coach. You got to be with my team. No, your job's with your son. This is historic. This is meaningful. This is great. You got to go. You got to go. Needless to say, Bob went. CC got to win on Saturday night. And Jeff was convinced it was his selling of getting Bob out of there that had a whole lot to do with them winning that game. There are 2 coaches that recently left their head coaching positions after a lengthy and at times legendary career. Red Berenson at Michigan, Dean Blaze at Nebraska Omaha. Now, having done this 13 years, I have enough Red stories to last us for days, but there's just one that makes me laugh every time I think about it. Matt Mcconnell and I were doing CSTV together. This has to be about 7 or 8 years ago when Michigan seemed to be the weekly guest on our air, and we bought Red one of those big tins of ground Tim Hortons coffee. And we're sitting in the outside room, outside by his office, and Matt and I are talking to him. We're just talking about the game a little bit and hockey and life, and Matt asks him one question, and Red's answering the question, and as he's finishing the answer to the question, he stands up and says, "Okay, guys," and leaves. And McConnell turns to me and he goes, "I guess our quarter in the Red meter just ran out." And it kind of became our thing with Red is, you talk to him, and just all of a sudden, when Red decided the conversation was over, it was over. And I'm sad to see him go. We had a great time with him. Dean Blaze has said more things to me about hockey and non-hockey that I can remember, most of which I can't repeat, but I'll give you a good one. It's after we won the gold medal in Saskatoon in 2010, and I'm downstairs outside the coach's room, and Dean comes out, he puts his arm around me, and he says, "You got to come to the post-game presser." I said, "I haven't been to a post-game presser ever. Why am I going to this one?" He goes, "I'm 3 beers in. I don't know what the hell I'm going to say." So that to me was Dean Blaze. Speaking of the World Juniors, let's talk about a group of coaches. Let's celebrate a group of coaches in this room that took a team of mostly college players and won a gold medal this year's World Junior Championships. I mentioned it on the air a lot. The pedigree of that coaching staff was unbelievable. Sometimes it doesn't surprise me how well that went. Bob Motzko went into that with 2 national titles as an assistant coach at the University of Minnesota and a Frozen Four appearance at St. Cloud. Grant Patolny, and by the way, Grant, congratulations on your head coaching position with Northern Michigan. That's awesome. Good for you. He went in there as a 2-time national champion as a player under Bob Motzko and Don Lucia at Michigan. Steve Miller. Killer was an assistant coach at Denver for 2 national titles, 1 at Providence, and Frank Sartori told me a great story about Killer. He said, one of the great things that happened to Air Force hockey in the last couple of years is, 1, we found a goalie in Shane Starrett, but 2, Steve Miller fell into our laps as our director of hockey operations, and Steve Miller has been a huge inspiration to us, helping mentor our coaching staffs. Now, Frank is not exactly a rookie. So for him to give that kind of credit and that kind of humility in saying what Steve Miller has done for that program, I thought was great, and Steve did a tremendous job with that World Junior team. Greg Brown has won 3 national titles as an assistant coach at BC. Chris Mayotte won a national championship as an assistant coach at Providence, and our video coach extraordinaire, Matt Chapman from St. Cloud State, all part of that great coaching staff, deserves to be celebrated here tonight. While we continue on that theme of the celebration of men's hockey, how about our under-18 World Championship team? John Robleski and your staff are reclaiming world dominance at the under-18 World Championships. John, as we all know, a great player for Dave Poulin at Notre Dame. A former national team development player who won a gold at that tournament was the Division I Men's Player of the Year. That's Will Butcher. Congratulations to him and to the University of Denver on their national championship. And we also acknowledge senior goaltender Evan Bittenhuis of Hamilton College. He is the Sid Watson Award winner as the Division III Player of the Year. Now, one coach who needs to be celebrated, and this is really kind of unique. This actually took on a life of its own this year. He even had his own hashtag for a while. I don't know if anybody in this room knows that, but for the last 16 years, there is one team in the NCAA that's won at least 20 games. That's the University of Denver. Do you know the constant link between that first season and this season, those 20-win seasons? Dave Tenzer, from that hockey hotbed of NYU, has been the constant link of Denver's success. And I know that when they won their 20th this year, Coach Montgomery reached out to all the former coaches at Denver and said, hey, you can be as happy as you want with what you've done here. There's the constant right there. Dave Tenzer, 16 years, 20 wins in a row, a major contribution to Denver hockey. And while we're on to Denver, congratulations to you and your national championship, Jim Montgomery, Tavis McMillan, David Carl, Joe Howe. We recognize and celebrate those coaches that got to the Frozen Four in Chicago: Scott Sandelin and his staff with the University of Minnesota Duluth, Ted Donato and Harvard, and Jeff Jackson and Notre Dame. And we celebrate some NCAA players that played in the NCAA this year and then went on to play in the NHL. And we all know how important it is to get our players to that next level. There was a game between Boston University and the University of North Dakota in the West Regional. 5 players from that game have played in the NHL this year, starting with the impact that Charlie Mcavoy made on the Boston Bruins in their playoffs run. And I mentioned Charlie, A, because he's my neighbor in Long Beach, New York, and B, I've had a chance to watch him since he was 10 years old and see how he played. Now, if there are any women's coaches in this room, his sister Heather can wire it. So I'm just put Heather Mcavoy on your radar. She plays with my son in the middle school team, and she can rifle it. But from that game, Brock Besser, in his hometown in the Twin Cities, playing for Vancouver, scored against the Minnesota Wild. Tyson Jost, Clayton Keller, Jacob Forsbacka Carlson all played the NHL, and Tucker Pullman signed with the Winnipeg Jets. We have some new coaches that we'd like to recognize tonight. While we're awaiting a new coach at Michigan Tech and also at Canisius, we once again acknowledge Grant Patolny, new head coach at Northern Michigan. Mel Pearson, back in his home territory at Ann Arbor, the new head coach at the University of Michigan. Dave Smith will be linking his systems together as the new head coach at RPI. Jason Lammers, new head coach at Niagara. Mike Gabinet taking over the helm of his alma mater in Omaha. And my wife's favorite hiring of the entire offseason, that would be Danton Cole at his and her alma mater at Michigan State. Shireen says, congratulations and go green. There you go. We celebrate Mike Mcshane for another Division III national championship with a record of 722, 341, and 67. He ranks 7th all-time among NCAA men's ice hockey coaches in over a 30-year career. And as a head coach at Norwich since 1996, he's led his team to the Frozen Four 10 times, winning 4 titles, 2000, 2003, the game I did in 2010, that was an awesome game in Lake Placid. And this year in 2017, he ranks 2nd among all active head coaches in wins, trailing only Jerry York. But what I think is great is not only did you put Division I players in the NHL, but you have a Division III player that you put in the NHL too, in Keith Aucoin, 2-time Division III Player of the Year, played for the Islanders, Chicago. It just shows no matter what level we're coaching at, we can always get guys who want it to find the NHL. And we all know the great story of Joe Otto, who was one of those non-Division I players who made it up to the National Hockey League and won a Stanley Cup. And he had a great career at Bemidji. And speaking of Bemidji, Tom, congratulations on your winning the WCHA with Bemidji State. I had a chance to spend some time with you and your staff up there after a game this year. Great building, great program, great fan support. Congratulations on an awesome season. But here's the best. We celebrate the fact that 32% of the players playing in the NHL are from NCAA programs. That's 307 players. And that speaks volumes for the entire coaching body of the 60 Division I programs that are represented in this room tonight. It shows that our player development still has a place in this game. And on that note, we celebrate the ADM regional managers who have made such an impact on our youth hockey players before they even get to the college level. We're developing such skill and such depth of skill that when Austin Matthews, Noah Hannafin, and Jack Eichel can't play in the World Juniors because they're playing in the NHL, we can still win a gold medal at the under-20s. That's awesome. That's player development. And on that note, I had a chance last night to catch up with Mark Boxer from USA Hockey. We talked about the World Junior A Challenge and how well USA Hockey is doing there and how well they're doing at the under-20 level. To the junior coaches, the 18U coaches, the 16U coaches, and those youth hockey coaches that have all embraced the ADM and the importance of skill development at the young levels, as opposed to teaching peewees and squirts to trap, lock, and face-off plays, your work hasn't gone unnoticed, and the benefits and fruits of your labor are now showing up all over Division I, Division III, and the American College Hockey Association. Mostly we celebrate the programs that are in this room, their coaches, their ADs, their school presidents, the conference commissioners, and the support staffs that make these programs go. You're the reason that college hockey is as exciting, as fun, as skilled, and as great a product it has become for the TV audience, and especially for those in the stands. We're here to celebrate all of those coaches across all the levels of college hockey. You should raise your glasses right now and celebrate everybody in this room for the job that they've done. Thank you for what you have done and the countless hours that you've put in. Now, I know at the pool bar there'll be some other celebrating and toasting, but we'll leave that till later. We have a special presentation that is not listed in your banquet program, and to make that presentation, I'd like to call up a former Hamilton College player, served as head coach of both RIT and Union before becoming the AD at Plattsburgh State. He has served as the AHCA as its treasurer since 1987. Please welcome back Bruce Delventhal.
As many of you know, it takes a lot of work to not only do this convention, but to run our organization, to run the American Hockey Coaches Association through the years. And we've been blessed with a number of volunteers and people who have made this organization the great group that it is, and to keep our tradition going. And these last few years, we've been extremely lucky because we've had a terrific president who will be stepping down after this year, and it's my honor to present a little token of our gratitude for his great work. I can tell you he never minds getting his hands dirty and jumping in and doing whatever we need to do to try to make things happen in a good way for college hockey and the American Hockey Coaches Association. Brian, you want to step up here for a minute? After commercial break, Dave will be right back up here to...
Trying to figure out how Brian was going to get that home. Our next presenter has been the executive director since 1991 and is the only person to serve in that position. He'll present the 5 major AHCA awards. More importantly, he's provided me with my necktie for the evening. Former Harvard standout puck stopper and the commissioner of Hockey East, Joe Britannia.
Good evening. I know there are a lot of people wondering about Dave getting fashion tips and ties from me, but there is a story behind that tie that goes back to, are you going to tell it later, or should I just? It's not that I have a lot of ties in my closet that are 26 years old, but that one is from the 91 Canada Cup. The whole staff got them, and I think I had it on at Tim Taylor's memorial service. A couple of times Dave, he's actually worn it here. He's worn it on TV at the World Juniors, so I like it because you can hide a lot of food in it if you're kind of sloppy. So I have the pleasure of presenting these awards. I think my assistant aide-de-camp will get the first one ready. And one of the things that's fun for me in doing this every year is, and increasingly the longer that I'm around here, is that you're presenting these awards, or you get the opportunity to present them to friends. You get the opportunity to present them to people you've worked closely with and through this association or another one. And if you do get a chance at the end of the night to come up and look at some of the plaques up here, I know the program lists who's won them before, but it is quite a who's who of college hockey, amateur hockey in the country that we're adding these next 5 recipients. So we're going to begin with the John Mariucci Award. John Mariucci, the former coach of the University of Minnesota, was not only an outstanding college coach but the driving force behind the growth of hockey in the United States. In 1987, the AHCA created this award to honor a secondary school coach who best exemplifies the spirit, dedication, and enthusiasm of the godfather of U.S. hockey, John Mariucci. This year's recipient is Pete Sears, and I think I just met him, but then I realized in shaking his hand tonight, I shook his hand 46 years ago at the end of an exhibition game between Harvard and the '72 Olympic team. And he reminded me that he gave up, in which the Olympic team won, of course. And he reminded me that he gave up a goal when the previous play, right before the goal, his mask got spun around. And he ended up looking through the side of the mask. And the next shot went in. And I thought I'd used every alibi in the books. I hadn't come up with that one, but I'm still playing, so I may get a chance to use that. Pete is from Lake Placid, New York, where he played his high school hockey alongside the likes of future AHCA coaches Bill and Jeff Beanie. He was an All-American goaltender at Oswego in the class of '70, and between his serving in Vietnam, he was a member of the '72 U.S. Olympic team, kind of a forgotten team that won the silver medal in Sapporo. Following his Olympic experience, he played 3 seasons of professional hockey. A coach in the Oswego Minor Hockey Association between '73 and '79, he took over as the head coach of Oswego High School in 1979 and was their head coach until 1998, then helped out as an assistant a few more seasons. Among his accomplishments, 10 league titles, 5 sectional titles, 5 New York State regional championships, 3-time New York State finalists, and on, not only as a successful team, but also recognized for their sportsmanship. Awarded the Peter Rush Award for the New York State Hockey for outstanding service and commitment to the growth of hockey, and inducted into the State High School Hall of Fame in 2000. He's also in the Oswego State High School Hall of Fame, the Oswego Athletic Hall of Fame, as well as the University Hall of Fame. It's my pleasure to present the first of the major awards of the evening, the John Mariucci Award, to Pete Sears.
I knew I shouldn't have told that story to him about the mask being turned around. I know you'd come back to use it against me. But as goaltenders, we do generally stick together. So, I'd like to thank the American Hockey Coaches Association officers, governors, and members for this unexpected honor, the John Mariucci Award for high school coaches. I was fortunate to have met John Mariucci when I was with the U.S. Olympic team in 1972. Our coach, Murray Williamson, had John stop by at one of our practices and talk to us for a few minutes. And so, having met him and listening to his motivational talk and hearing about many of his accomplishments, and now receiving this honor tonight makes the award extra special. I accept this award on behalf of all of the coaches, mentors, players, and friends of hockey that have influenced me during my hockey journey over the last 60 years. Many of them were members of the American Hockey Coaches Association and were also presented awards by your association. Among some of those people who received awards were the John Mariucci Award winners, Stan Moore, Ray Pratt, Bill O'Neill. John McGinnis Award winners, Charlie Holt, Len Solarski, Bob Peters, Phil Grady, Bill Beanie. Joe Burke Award winners, George Crow, Bob Allen. Snooks Kelly Award winners, Herb Hammond, Greg Batt, Dave Peterson. Terry Flanagan Award winner, my Olympic teammate, Stewie Irving. So all of those people, at one time or another, touched my life and led me to, I guess, become the coach and use the philosophies that I use because of some of the things I learned from them. As a high school coach, I tried to take this information that I borrowed from the past experiences with these great hockey people and apply it to my situation at Oswego High School for 24 years. I was fortunate to have been at the right place at the right time and have a group of kids that bought into my philosophy. So many memories and lifelong friendships have been rekindled because of this award tonight, and I would once again like to thank the American Hockey Coaches Association for this honor. Thank you.
I just apologize. He didn't offer that story as an excuse. It was just a good story, I thought. The next award is the Jim Fullerton Award, named in honor of the former Brown University hockey coach and AHCA spiritual leader. This award recognizes an individual who loves the purity of our sport. Whether a coach, an administrator, trainer, official, journalist, or simply a fan, the recipient exemplifies Jim Fullerton, who gave as much as he received and never stopped caring about the direction in which our game was heading. This year's recipient is Wally Johnson. Wally, 2013 inductee into the College Sports Information Hall of Fame, was nominated by the good people of St. Lawrence. He's a native of St. Albans, Vermont, 1971 graduate of the University of Vermont, assistant sports editor at the Burlington Free Press prior to starting a 41-year career at St. Lawrence. Regarding the 41 years, Wally, I believe a phone call from Coach Marsh earlier tonight, he referenced that you began somewhere in the middle of the Rutherford B. Hayes administration, was the direct quote. He continued in sports information, continued time doing color commentary in St. Hockey games, which I believe is a job that Joe virtually destroyed this past year, in addition to providing home and away articles for various North Country newspapers. He was also the 1971 Vermont Sports Writer of the Year, has been very active as both a member of the COSIDA Group, ECAC Sports Information Group, and they've honored them with their highest awards. The bio has a lot of the information about different championships he worked and his golfing prowess and all sorts of other things. But in all seriousness, Joe is a great source of humor. But he actually, and Joe's got some medical issues. He wasn't able to come down here and really misses being down. He was going to be on the retired coaches panel Saturday, and he's very close to both Wally and to Mike Mcshane. But he actually called. He said, "Yeah, you might. I know you know Wally well, but you might want some comments." And it wasn't the joking side, other than the Rutherford B. Hayes reference. He was talking about your ability as a writer, and your creativity and how you would find something unique about each of the players as opposed to mailing it in or having a generic piece. And as you get older and you stand up here, you realize that profession, like the coaching profession and other things, has changed so much, where a lot of it now is about social media, about ability with graphics, but the skill of writing, which takes time, and to do it well. And Joe went on and on about just your ability to get it right, to care about the kids, coming from a coach who is, among any coach that I've seen, really cared about his kids. And so you can tell it hurt him not to be here. So I hope I do some justice in passing on his remarks. But it's my pleasure as a former SID to present this year's Fullerton Award to Wally Johnson of St. Lawrence University.
For those who know me and might be wondering, they're eel. Not ill, eel. First of all, I'd like to extend my congratulations to all of the award winners this weekend, or this week, both tonight and on Friday. This is certainly a distinguished group of highly talented people, and I'm humbled to be part of that group. I'm also very proud to join a group of Fullerton Award winners, which includes some good friends such as Steve Cady, Mac McIntosh, Burge Foss, Jocko Connolly, and Doug Spencer. I have been fortunate enough along the way, because I was in it for a long, long time, to win some awards, and it goes to show you what hanging around a long time does for you. I must say that this one is very special, not only because what it's about, but from whom it comes. And Joe said I could write. Yeah, sometimes. It's good working relationship between the sports information director and the college hockey coach, or any college coach, makes for a very successful program. I have had the pleasure of working with some great coaches, some really nice people through all the sports. St. Lawrence has 32 sports. We started with 13. Fortunately, they gave me some help before I went totally nuts. Some of the coaches that have worked with me in hockey have been started with Bernie McKinnon and Billy Wilkinson, who taught me the game of euchre, which cost me some money. And then along came Leon Abbott, who used to stop into the house about 2 in the morning, have a scotch, and borrow a book. Mike Mcshane stepped in and with a JV team put the program back on the rocks. He just put the rails right to it, and St. Lawrence went from some struggles to some really good teams, and I think Mike deserves a ton of credit for what he did at St. Lawrence, a great friend, and what he's done at Norwich as well, which I covered back in the old days. After Mike, of course, Joe. What can you say about Joe? I mean, I used to, you say you got to lead people to press conferences. No, I know. With Joe, you had to chase him to the press conference. And then, of course, when he got there, it was like the greatest ever. I mean, Joe and I used to kid around with I could write his quotes, and no, because I hung out with him long enough. The only guy I know that could quote Churchill in one part of a paragraph and Marvin the Martian in the last half of the paragraph. After Joe, unfortunately, ran some health issues and decided to retire, along came Greg Carville, who was the first St. Lawrence player that I had covered, who went on to become a coach, and Carvey did a great job. Brought us to the ECAC's semifinals 2 years in a row before he went on to UMass, and then I almost unretired when I found out that Mark Morris was going to take his place. But my younger staff that really wanted the job had weapons out, so I said, okay, fine. The only thing I discovered about retirement is that I'm not a good spectator. I almost wanted to sit there and do stat crew while I was watching the game. I did find that the best way to watch a Clarkson-St. Lawrence game from Cheel is to do it from the hotel balcony in St. Martin's. After about 4 gin and tonics, I didn't care that we were behind. It was it's been interesting as a retiree. I tried taking some pictures, and they decided they really weren't in focus, and it can't be because I had any scotch before the game. It's an automatic focus camera. I mean, how did you go wrong? I did do a couple games before Joe jumped into the broadcast booth on the radio. Then they asked me to go and do a game at Princeton, and I said, hey, the reason I retired is the one thing I didn't like was getting off the bus from Princeton at 5 a.m. on Sunday and having to go cover a horse show at 8:30. Hockey at St. Lawrence was obviously a big part of my career in sports information, but surprisingly it wasn't before I got there, pretty much. I grew up in St. Albans, Vermont, which now has one of the best high school programs in the state. Unfortunately, back when I was playing, there wasn't even peewee hockey. I played some pond hockey. I had good skating skills. My stick skills were limited to hooking, slashing, and the occasional feeble cross-check. I was pretty good on skis, but we won't go there either. Actually, my entire athletic career, high school and college, created a pretty good sports writer. In the course of 7 years at the Free Press, I learned about the game of hockey from conversations with Jimmy Cross, Wendy Forbes, and Bob Priestley. One great night down at, I think it was What Ails You, Jimmy Cross, Don Fillion, Joe Kincannon, myself, and Jack Parker. And it was after BU buried UVM. But it was a really interesting insight between coaches Cross and Parker into the game of hockey. I learned a lot from that, and I appreciate what I learned. I did see 11 of the 12 current ECAC men's hockey head hockey coaches play as undergraduates, and 7 of the current Hockey East players coaches during their playing days. There were a lot of highlights over the 40 seasons at St. Lawrence. Hosting championships at Lake Placid was great. Actually, one of the most fun weekends that I ever had wasn't that much fun. We were hosting Wisconsin for the first time ever, an NCAA game at St. Lawrence. Had a nice little soiree the night before. I woke up at 5 a.m. with a kidney stone. Missed the game on Saturday, which St. Lawrence won 7-0. The nurse got a little panicked. She was a Clarkson fan. When I threw my arms up in the air and the IV alarm went off. I did go the next night, and everybody from Wisconsin, there's a huge media crowd from Wisconsin. They always want to know, like, where can we go? What can we do? I said, what'd you do last night? I said, do it again. So that was it. And I made it through that, and then I drove down to Lake Placid. I've been being good. I mean, cranberry juice just goes so far. I ran across our team doctor walking down the street in Placid, and I said, geez, I could really use a beer or a scotch or something. He said, look, come on, it'll be good for you. And why didn't you tell me that last week? It was fun. Like I said, I never had to really worry about Joe Marsh as a head coach. It was a great time. The only time that he ever gave me any trouble was when he was trying to figure out who the hell to play on the fourth line. He'd delay the lines, and I said, Joe, just give me options, and I'll do 2 line charts. We called it the cut and paste line chart. It was scissors and paste. Now we do it on computers. It's easy, but it was a great time, and I'm going to miss a lot of parts. I'm going to miss hockey more than anything else. And I'm not going to miss it because I'm going to be there, but I'm going to miss working it and getting a chance to get down to the officials' room and talk to the guys before or after the game. The old days used to go down before. I get there at 5 o'clock, have coffee with Billy Stewart, and now with the computers came along and the internet, I had to go and write a track meet or something before, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him as much. But once I figure out what to do with myself when the game's underway, and I bribe our new AD, Bob DeRocher, to get an actual seat somewhere in the arena, I will be a good spectator, and I will really enjoy watching all of your teams come in and play at St. Lawrence. I'll enjoy watching the women's teams, BJ and Boomer Wisner with me. Boomer somehow managed to damage Chris Wells, so he isn't here tonight. But it was and is a great profession, and I urge all of you to develop really good relationships with your SIDs. I know sometimes some teams get younger kids and they come in. You can mentor them. They will be fine down the road. And anybody who wants to use Zeeb's du jour, it's out there. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and have a great night.
Next award is the John Snooks Kelly Founders Award. Named after the former Boston College coach, this award honors those people in the coaching profession who have contributed to the overall growth and development of the sport of ice hockey in the United States. This year's recipient is Jack Barzee. Jack started his hockey career in the youth programs of New Haven, Connecticut, a program built and supported to a great degree by his father. Played high school hockey at West Haven High for 3 years, then with the New Haven Bears and Norwalk Home Oilers senior amateur teams. Spent 8 weeks with the U.S. national team in '62 before being cut and looking for a place to play. Joined a teammate who had also been cut, finished out the season playing with the Pittsburgh Knights senior team. He'd go on to play in Muskegon, Windsor, Nova Scotia, in the Maritime League before joining the Waterloo Blackhawks in 1965, starting a 12-year career there. Also played 1 season in Green Bay, finished up in Switzerland in 1972, where he launched his coaching career. Following the season in Switzerland, he would earn USHL Coach of the Year honors in 1977-78, 80-81, 82-83 while coaching Waterloo and then Dubuque. In Waterloo, he was an owner, general manager, coach, and player. Also the league treasurer for 2 years. He started the Dubuque franchise in '80, finished his coaching career 5 years later. He won the USHL regular season playoffs and national championships, 2 consecutive league titles with Waterloo, 2 at Dubuque. His overall record for 9 years in the USHL was 341, 163, and 11. In 2004, the USHL awarded him their Distinguished Service Award. He also served as an assistant general manager and assistant coach on the '84 U.S. Junior National Team and served 2 seasons on the national team staff in the player personnel capacity. He served the NHL Central Scouting Service for 23 years and the Washington Capitals Chief USA Scout for 4 years. He retired from Central Scouting in August of 2012. It's my pleasure to present the 2017 John Snooks Kelly Founders Award to Jack Barzee.
Good evening. You'll have to excuse the voice. I was at the bar all day yesterday with the Riley family. And most of you people that in hockey that I've come across in my life know that I get my conversation in and listening with them. It was fun just to get old times after coaching Brian for a year in Waterloo. First, a special thanks to everyone involved in the American Hockey Coaches Association for placing this honor on me. Looking over the past recipients, you know, the list is, it's just an extreme honor, and it's very humbling. And to the rest of the award winners tonight also, you know, I'm glad to share this little spotlight with you, and I'm flattered to be in your company. I know a lot of players and coaches that I've met in my life that I don't remember any one of them ever not having a smile on their face or shaking my hand and making me feel welcome. And that's special, and it only happens in hockey, I think. I'd like to thank my family first. My wife is here tonight, Kathy, and my cousin from Cheshire, Connecticut, Brendan, her husband, John, and one of my teammates, Charlie Brown, who played in the '72 Olympic team. Charlie played in Waterloo with us for a few years, and his wife, Cindy. They made a special effort to be here tonight. My 2 boys, Zach and Joel, who are home running businesses, and we keep getting the reports every night about 10:45 before you go to bed. Most of them are good, but some of those coaching questions about what do I do with my grandson? What are you going to do with my grandson? He can't keep his head up. They're both coaching too, so it's kind of going around again in the family. Also, I think that the most important, I thought that Vladimir Kobrinoff, on your table, I have a little square thing about a player from the 48 and 49 Czech team, and if you guys will take a look and read the story, it's kind of sad. But when I first thought, that was when I started coaching. But really, Timmy Taylor in Waterloo, we became teammates in 1965. And, Tim from Boston, me from Connecticut. We were kind of, the only Easterners at that time playing in the league. And Tim was running the youth program. And he had his hands full. And so he said, we practice from 6 to 7:30 every night. And then we go over to the Wayfair. And the Wayfair was our favorite place to have a supper.